What are you doing, honey?
It's the sun.
We are living in an age which is particularly obsessed with the end of the world.
You don't need to be a religious believer to imagine that the world will end by fire.
As a matter of principle, it will be over one day. A real solar revolution is coming. But the end of the sun is not the only doom.
From the beginning of time, human beings have sought to understand the events of the end of time. We are all looking forward to a future which gives us reason for hope and also for fear.
Are me and Abby gonna die?
We have a serious fear of death, and the end of the world is about the end of us. And that, really brings up a lot of fear for a lot of people. And so rather than deal with their own personal death, they're going to go to the death of the world. Oh my God, the whole world is going to die.
How am I supposed to stop the end of the world?
All ages have had their myths of the coming apocalypse. But in the modern age, the dangers that we face are particularly acute. Nuclear annihilation, global warming, the idea that the seas are going to rise, the climate is going to change. These are anxiety-provoking scenarios.
Oh my God.
Virtually all cultures are apocalyptic. I think in the ancient world, apocalypticism became popular because people were unhappy with the world in which they lived. Therefore, they fantasized about a brand new world. I think in modern times today, we see a lot of apocalyptic thinking after really difficult moments in history. For instance, after 9/11, apocalyptic rhetoric was very, very popular.
Apocalyptic is a Greek word. When we don't understand perplexing events, we generally give them Greek names. And apocalypsis means unveiling. And this refers to secrets about ultimate reality.
All right, stay with me. I know how this sounds. But I've matched these numbers to the dates of every major global disaster for the last 50 years in perfect sequence.
The end of the world would be a secret idea that would be encoded in symbolic language. So people are chosen, people who are called to unveil it become the apocalyptic prophets.
She used to stare at this picture for hours.
First century Christian beliefs were very apocalyptic, acutely apocalyptic. The book of Revelation says the end times would be violent, and the end times would be ecologically cataclysmic. So what you have is a heavenly battle between the minions of God and the minions of Satan that eventually finds its way to the world and the total destruction of that world and the followers of Satan.
In the Norse mythology, the final battle is called the Ragnarok.
It literally means the doom of the powers. The gods of the creation myths would war among themselves, and the gods themselves would be destroyed. But it's the good that is overcome by the evil.
In Hindu mythology, the goddess Kali, who is the goddess of death and destruction, reigns 472,000 years. And it's not just the evildoers who are destroyed, it's all of us. The universe goes up in a cosmic fire. Numerology is one of the sort of staples of the millennial imagination, and this has to do with the incessant desire to fix a point in time in which these events are to be expected.
The encircled numbers are locations.
Numbers are very important. There are a lot of numbers in the book of Revelation, the number 666. Part of the employment of numbers in the book of Revelation is exactly to be cryptic. You can allude to Nero by referring to 666, which most scholars believe is a numeric value of his name in the Hebrew language and also the Greek language. The whole book of Revelation is a code.
And although the millennium really pertains to the Christian apocalypse, the book of Revelation, there are millennial dates in other religions. And you sometimes have the rise of new religious movements with gurus that combine elements of many different apocalypses and prophecies.
The Mayans have a calendar whose dates end at December 21st, 2012. Now, if you were to ask a Mayan today if that was the end of the world, they'd probably say no, that is the end of a cycle. But our apocalyptic imaginations, especially in America, have taken some liberties.
If you look at apocalyptic notions in general, when despair mounts to the degree that you can't make it better or it's blocked in some way, then people conceive of a great destructive era so that they can begin the world anew.
Who are you?
Around the middle of the 20th century, after the detonation of the first 5 nuclear bombs, there developed a fear of nuclear catastrophe in the world. And it's at that point that we begin to see, first of all, the first reports of unidentified flying objects, UFOs. And shortly thereafter, you have the coming together of a couple of different strains of narrative, the rapture narrative, the apocalypse, and some chosen people are going to be removed from this horrible end time scenario and saved.
I can hear them whispering to me sometimes like Abby can.
The Heaven's Gate people seized upon a comet and its tail that happened to be passing by, the Hale-Bopp comet. And they believed that there was a spaceship following it. And when Earth was facing disaster, they would escape that disaster by taking this spaceship when this comet came by. They only had one chance at it, so that they could go to a new world and seed that world with their knowledge.
What did he do to you?
It's okay, Dad. I'm okay. This is my friend. I said I can keep him.
Traditionally, heavenly orbs and heavenly lights have been interpreted as divine portents. So if you look in the Bible, there's a lot of language about wheels in the sky, fire in the sky, comets, all the way back to ancient pre-Christian times were interpreted as heavenly portents. So it isn't that much of a leap to go from that to the idea of these unidentified flying objects, these lights in the sky, being connected with some kind of message from beyond.
Do you remember that paper on extrasolar activity I published?
Yeah, sure I remember.
I found evidence of a series of superflares from a star in the outer Pleiades region.
In Judeo-Christian scripture, the sun will be extinguished. So what we see is almost an anti-creation.
All throughout the world, there are myths of the sun. We have Helios and Apollo among the Greeks.
Apollo was a sun god, and his ability to inflict disease as punishment, as we see at the beginning of the Iliad, or his ability to heal, is again as prayed for, is a very powerful part of his existence.
The further south you go, the more the sun is also associated with destructive powers. So, for example, in ancient Egyptian mythology, you have the sun god Ra, who is both helpful and destructive, and one of his daughters is Sekhmet. Sekhmet is a lion goddess. She has the face of a lioness, and she's associated with the burning powers of the sun at midday and can be a very demanding and vengeful goddess at times.
A superflare in our own solar system. A 100 microtesla wave of radiation that would destroy our ozone layer, killing every living organism on the planet.
The sun is about halfway through its lifetime. The total lifetime is 10 billion years or so. Right now the sun is the same age as the Earth. It's about 4.5 billion years old, so it has about that much more time again left in it.
A word or two about the composition.
Mostly hydrogen, also helium, with some carbon and nitrogen thrown in there.
Excellent.
The sun is constantly boiling, and this gives a lot of irregular motion, turbulences. Occasionally, the pileup of, say, magnetic storage energy can be too high, and there will be an explosion. There will be local explosions on the surface of the sun. And then hell breaks loose.
Solar flares occur fairly frequently on the sun. What they are storms, magnetic storms, and that can obviously disrupt our technology and disrupt our civilization.
They can be nearly a third of the speed of light, so at 20 minutes they can reach Earth, although typically that takes a few hours.
However, I think the effects on human health directly will probably be minimal because of the Earth's magnetic field acting as a shield.
But our industrial civilization is vulnerable. One of these big blackouts that we have experienced in the last few decades can actually be triggered by the sun. If you live in a space station, then your life might depend on it.
I have a prophecy. It's about to be proven accurate.
There are other kind of cosmic events that can affect the Earth in various ways. Supernovae, when a star explodes and blows itself to smithereens, is one potential way in which we might face a cataclysm.
If this happened relatively nearby to Earth, that could indeed annihilate all our life, all our species.
We hear a lot about black holes these days because they're out there. There's a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. A direct impact of the Earth with a black hole would be catastrophic. It would literally swallow the Earth. But I don't think it's something that any of us should lose sleep over. There will come a time, however, when the sun slowly but surely heats up and poses challenges to the human species that they will have to face someday.
This heat we're experiencing isn't going to get better. It's going to get worse.
1 billion years is safe. But then between 1 and 2 billion years, it gets unpleasantly warm.
The sun's energy comes from nuclear energy. At the very core of the sun, hydrogen is being burned into helium.
That supply will last maximum for 10 billion years. And there you have it, that it has to end.
The temperature on the Earth will rise far more than even our most dire predictions now for what our environmental cataclysms might bring about.
We are facing a natural threat of global proportions.
I wouldn't want to be around during that time because the veils of morality and the way we exist in society today would be lifted, and there'd be such incredible chaos, it would be scary. People would act out unbelievably because of the end of the world.
There might be a slow evolution and that people would die out who couldn't adapt. But that's only humans I'm talking about. Most plants can't stand desert temperatures. If the temperature rises above the boiling point of water, there's no oceans left.
If we hide underground, we got a chance, don't we?
One possible solution is perhaps to go underground, but that's not much of a solution. The problem there is that underground is a hot place too. The temperature rises as you go deeper and deeper into the Earth, and the center of the Earth, for example, is about as hot as the surface of the sun.
Now, if for some reason we can still survive in cave and keep our air and all this, the real doom would come in about 6 billion years, when the sun would become a red giant, because then it would fill the whole sky.
The size of the red giant during that phase will be almost as big as the orbit of the Earth. And you can imagine then how hot it would be on the Earth.
Lead would melt on the surface of Earth.
We would certainly be fried. There are some who believe that the red giant sun will swell up enough to engulf the Earth. Or tongues of gas rising from the surface of the sun will reach out and vaporize the Earth over time.
That phase will last about 100 million years, and then it will collapse to the size about of Earth. Then it will get cold, and what remains of the sun, that white dwarf, will be just a faint star, which will then slowly become dark. Humankind has been around for only 3 million years. Therefore, we have time. But still, the crunch will come, and humankind would have to consider leaving this planet and go somewhere else.
The alternative is to move the Earth. That, of course, requires a technology that's beyond our imagination at present, but I'm not a pessimist. I can imagine that the time will come when we're smart enough to figure things out.
The universe nearby is full of stars that look like the Sun, which in a few years or decades we will definitively know that they will have planets, and some of them, just by sheer statistics, they must be a bit like Earth, so they would be places. Now, typical travel distance will be 10, 20, 50, 100 light years. And with present state space technology, actually these distances can be made. It just takes 100,000 years.
I'm not leaving you, but you gotta go with them. You gotta go with them.
I think the alien mythology offers humans a great deal of hope. They offer the hope of human survival against a backdrop of a planet that appears to be doomed, whether because of nuclear annihilation or environmental degradation or the indifference of governments to our problems. Whatever it is that's bad here on Earth, the aliens are going to come, they're going to pluck us off the planet, and somehow, in some different place, in some faraway universe, human beings are going to survive and they're going to live on.
Apocalyptic tales are not really tales of oblivion. They're actually tales of renewal. With this tale of renewal that comes at the end of a terrible struggle, we're given another vision, we're given another chance, another way of looking at things. And that speaks of a continuance of life, of a continuity of culture, and of a sacredness that cannot be destroyed in any manner.